Hello and welcome to the Corporate Jet Investor podcast. This week, we're honoured to have the one and only Alireza Ittihadieh from Freestream Aircraft. Ali, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Alistair. How is it in Old Blighty?
It's good. How is it in New York?
Beautiful sunshine
It's
and
nice
lots of tariffs.
We'll come to those. Ali, how would you define your negotiating style?
I'd like honesty, transparency, and I know what I want, and I expect to get what I want, and I'm not going to waste time with people who know exactly what the market value of an asset is, and they're trying to be cute and clever.
Do you ever shout at people?
I do. When they cross the boundaries of my patience.
And one of my favourite stories about you is the Brian Humphreys, who was at Shell for many years and ran their aircraft department. And he told me he once sold an aircraft and you acted on the other side from him. And you were so hard to deal with. He then went, from now on, I want you on my side of the table. Does that sound familiar?
That sounds very familiar. He was trying to sell his own aircraft without a broker, and he thought what he was trying to accomplish was fair and square, and with a quick spiritual awakening, I brought it to his attention that he was not being fair and square, and if there is a fair and square approach, he needs to start listening. And we forged an amazing relationship until his retirement.
I know, and you worked with him for many years. When did you sell your first aircraft?
I sold my first aircraft in 1993. It was a Jetstar 2 with the Garrett 731 engines.
And how did you end up working on that deal?
A client of mine decided he wanted an aircraft for the U.S., and he had heard about the Jetstar as it had 4 engines, and he decided that it was a big bang for the buck for $1.2 million, and we went and bought it from a Greek-American who was in the dairy business in the Northeast.
So you didn't, as a child, you didn't dream of becoming an aircraft broker, did you? Or working in aviation?
Nope. As a child, my dream was to become a police outrider.
I can see you doing that.
No, seriously, it was I thought it was the coolest job in the world.
It's a very cool job. And then you ended up working in the city. You ended up being
I ended up working for a bank in New York from 1985 to 1990. And then I moved to another bank. And then I decided that I'm not sure if this is what I want to do. And then I took a few months that became a year off. And as it happened, a friend of mine said, "You love technology and you love aviation. Why don't you get into aviation?" And so that's where it all started.
And do you have any regrets about choosing aviation?
As a broader term, no. As the aircraft brokerage, being a broker dealer, I would say the dealer side is still rewarding. The brokerage side has shifted tremendously. It was an amazing process to be representing a Shell or a Ford or a Exxon or a Mobil Oil or one of the big or BP. But today, unfortunately, it's become nothing more than a commodity. So the reward side of it is limited. The pleasure part of it is limited. When I went and met with Ford Motor Company for their fleet renewal, it was a pleasure. I enjoyed the meeting. I enjoyed the fleet construction. I've enjoyed. Today, they treat you like they could just be buying toilet paper for the company. I mean, there's no difference. So just like many of the larger brokers, we've all shied away from the corporate accounts because you used to be able to be paid what you were worth. And today, let's put it this way: you used to be paid for what you were doing for them. The focus wasn't how much they were paying you. The focus was what can you do for them and whether you performed. And I always say that for some reason the aircraft brokerage business has gone from getting paid a fair fee to almost no fee. And when you're a large organization with 20 or 30 people, you have overhead. So you can never compete with the bedroom broker or the cottage broker because they have no overhead. They work from their second bedroom. There's no rent. They don't have a treasury department for paying and receiving. They don't have researchers. They don't have assistants. They don't have support as per se. And that's where the difference comes between the larger houses and the one or two man shows.
Although there are some exceptionally good one-man brokerages out there.
I was a 1.5 man broker. That's how I started. But I never short sold myself.
How did you, going back all those years, when you started as a broker, it was, I'm guessing, 90% of all transactions were for US customers? Very US dominated industry.
Freestream was always very US centric, as I would say, well over 70% of the world transactions were in the US. In Europe, we only had 4 or 5 customers, whereas in the US, if we did, let's say in my early days, if I did 23 aircraft in 1 year, I would easily say 18 to 19 would trade in the North American theater, and about 3 to 5 in Europe.
How did you break in? Because you're not American. How did you break into that market?
I was fortunate. I was originally introduced to the CEO of Mobil Oil, and he liked me, and he basically passed me down to their flight operations director. I was then on the back of that, I was also introduced to the Ford Motor Company, and the vice chairman of Ford Motor Company, a man called Peter Pastillo, liked me. He saw that he could depend on me, and So I was again passed on down to the flight department. Then on the back of that, I was interviewed by the Wrigley Company, two American brokers and myself, and Bo Wrigley, who was chairman and chief executive at the time, handpicked me because of my knowledge. So I showed people a degree of knowledge outside the aviation. If they asked me about the difference between financing an aircraft and leasing an aircraft, I had the ability to give them a definitive explanation. And I remember when I got my first Ford contract, I think my competitor was at $150,000 an aircraft, and I was at $350,000 an aircraft. But they didn't look at what they were paying me. They were looking at what I was doing for them. Just like Brian Humphreys. Brian Humphreys, when he hired me for what I can do for him. His focus wasn't what I was paying. He was paying me. Because if his objective was to get $9 million for his Hawker 1000 and I got him 10, so I had paid for the fee that he was paying me. But if you go and do it for $75,000, you don't care at that point. You just want a deal to happen and move on. So the mentality of the corporate flight departments and treating it as a procurement exercise of, you might as well be buying toilet paper, because that's how you buy toilet paper. You don't hire your lawyer on those bases. I mean, if you look at the RFPs that the corporates put out, they're just silly. They're just silly, and they're looking at cheap and cheerful. They would rather pay $75,000 for a guy who doesn't have any experience and doesn't know what he's doing, as opposed to somebody who does know what they're doing and pay them $200,000. So, but there are still, I mean, the hedge fund world are, to the most part, are more than happy to pay a fee for the knowledge. There are certain corporations that understand they have to pay a fee, and especially if you're performing. If I can get an aircraft that has a market value of $42 million and I can get it for you for 39 because of my knowledge and ability of the market trading numbers, I think paying me $450,000 is not an extreme fee, because I've already saved you $3 million. So to pay me $450 of that, proportionately, I don't think it's not. So then we had to develop a new methodology. So they would say, well, how do I know you're acting for me? I said, okay, why don't you go negotiate a deal with whoever, get your best price, give me your best price. If I can beat your best price, we split the winnings 30-70. In 5 cases, 5, not 1, 5, they had to write a check more than twice what they would have had to pay me as a fee. Because everybody thinks they're clever. They know everything. Because you're wealthy, you know everything about buying boats, buying cars, and then there are some people who treat buying an airplane like buying a house, or other people treat it like buying a car. And you're like, seriously?
So what is different?
One case, I can tell you, no names mentioned. One case, a very well-known person, their manager decided that he knows everything. They can go and buy an airplane. They bought a Falcon 900 direct from the seller. They didn't do the correct inspections. Then when they went to do their C-check, the aircraft was corroded to the core. So guess what? Now they filed a lawsuit against the seller. The seller says, what the hell are you talking about? You knew what you were doing. You had no representation, and this is a price of no representation you pay after the fact. So when things like that happen, I actually get joy out of it. Because why does everybody, if I want to file a lawsuit, I hire a lawyer. If I want to file my taxes, I hire an accountant. If I want to fix my plumbing, unless it's a simple matter, I call it plumber. With aviation, for some peculiar, bizarre reason, everybody knows everything, and they can do it better, and they can, until they trip and break their nose.
Do you think it's because for a lot of people it's fun? It's fun getting involved.
It's got this sexy connotation, but the sexy connotation doesn't solve your problem, Alistair. Doesn't solve your problem. If you don't know what inspection should happen, you don't know what the market price is, you go on controller as your source of information, you might as well write. You may get lucky once, but you ain't going to get lucky twice.
Every aircraft looks good on controller. It's to start with.
But they don't know. They think they're buying a watch. They think they're buying a house. Again, you never, do you go around knocking on people's door to buy a house?
No.
Have you ever heard that? I mean, I know some people go to building by building and say, is there anything for sale? 99.9% of the time, what's for sale in an apartment building or a house is listed with a broker. So what it is with our business, hell, if I could figure it out.
Would you say that your modus operandi is to start at the top, and that you're not a broker who turns up at a small regional airport and pops into a few hangars?
I did that when I started. I used to go travel the East Coast, the West Coast, the Midwest, meet management companies and so on. Today, it's different. Today, yes, I tend to go top down, but top down, it's mostly principals who feel that they identify with me, and they feel comfortable with what I'm telling them. Some people think I'm expensive. Some people, that's fine. You know what? That's your. You want proper advice. It costs money. You pay peanuts, you get a monkey and corrosion.
It's a new expression. What's a typical Freestream client look like?
I mean, it could be a head of executive chairman of a major corporation. It could be the CEO. It could be the president. It could be hedge fund managers, high net worth industrialists. I mean, we still have corporate accounts in the U.S. We have high net worth accounts, but we try to fit the market. But if we were to pick and choose, the hedge fund managers or the private equity guys, they're the most generous and least chiseling. Some are, but to the most part, they're not.
And when you're
high net worth in general, high net worth and wealthy people, if they want a service, they'll pay for it. They don't chase to the bottom.
A key part of your business is dealing aircraft, where you buy them for your own inventory.
We have four departments effectively. We have the broker dealer business. We have the brokerage business. we have the air charter brokering business, and we have the aircraft services business. The aircraft I'll go backwards. Aircraft services is if you buy an aircraft, that division organizes the pre-buy, organizes the refurbishment, design, completion management, if you so desire to hire us. Then we have the air charter. The air charter brokerage started when our clients back in the 90s would have their aircraft down for maintenance, and they would call and say, can you get us a charter? Can you do this? So that was born from servicing in-house clients. We don't pretend to be Apollo. We don't pretend to be what was it called? The one that
Air Partner or
their
HRS.
partners or anything. That's not our core business. It's a service we provide. You want, you hire. You don't want, that's fine. So we have two people there. Then we have the aircraft brokerage business. We're about 8 or 9. We were 16, but we're down to 8 or 9 brokers. And we're the only company who doesn't regionalize their brokers. As long as they all communicate, you can have a sale in Paris and New York and Texas and California or CIS or Hong Kong. Doesn't matter. So I don't believe in narrowing geography of brokers. But I do believe in communicating with one another. So you and I don't both run and talk to the same guy and confuse them. And then there's aircraft the dealing side, and that's by far the most profitable. We can analyze an aircraft and decide to buy it within hours, and there are many. We succeeded in many distressed situations in China, post-Russian war, and so on and so forth, and we had a phenomenal run, and even now we just in November we bought an airplane into inventory that had to go through a big 12-year inspection, and we took the risk, and then we were rewarded accordingly. So we've done, we've now moved from just doing corporate jets to the ACJs and the BBJs.
Well, you'd buy an ACJ or a BBJ for inventory?
Yeah, we bought 3 of them in the last 18 months. We've done the maintenance. We've made them airworthy and have sold it. We bought a BBJ in November, and it went through its maintenance, and we successfully closed on it in March.
But these are big deals where you're putting what, 80 million of capital down?
No. These are all used aircraft. They're, we have a threshold. We go up to about 50. We can fund up to now. An $80 million aircraft, it's got to be seriously cheap for us to engage, and but we look at risk reward. We buy at a number, we factor in the cost of the maintenance. Once that has been done and the holding cost, then we make an offer, and it's always a take it or leave it offer. It's I don't believe in ego acquisitions. I mean, I would buy an aircraft for $7 million, and I'll be happy as a puppy selling it at $8.5. And we've done it. We've done it many times. We're happy to buy a 550 at around 15, 16 million and be able to put it away at, let's say, 18, 19. So but that's not profit. It's not all profit. Remember that interest rates at today's rate, there's a tremendous cost. But yes, but that's our business. We're there. We move fast. No different than banks offering buildings to developers. They've got a line of credit with the bank. The bank knows they can execute. For sure. I'll give you an example. One of the Swiss banks had repossessed a Gulfstream 450. We made an offer, and somebody else made an offer higher than ours. But they gave it to us twofold. They knew me, and my line of credit was with them. So they knew that I'm going to close. Whereas the other guy may have been a higher number, but it was a long shot. Can he close? Can he not? He says he can. Yeah. So, and you build up on that. But, we've made our mistakes. We bought a plane and we lost $1.2 million on it. We bought a helicopter and we lost. So it's like a trading desk that we buy, hope for the best, but things do go wrong from time to time. I mean, it's reality. It's just life. You buy a stock, it's up, then it goes down. But at the end of the day, it's the end of year bottom line that's what's important. And if we can do 10 of those a year, we're happy campers.
And you're doing full personal guarantee on those loans?
Not necessarily. At the beginning, we were doing personal guarantees. But later on, it depends with the lender. If I'm using one entity that I have, the company's accounts are there and so on, they tend to be happy with the corporate guarantee because they see what's available. They don't need to look at a bank statement. But yeah, I mean, listen, there's nothing wrong with a personal guarantee as long as you mean well. And where am I going to, if personal guarantee or no personal guarantee, it's at the end of the day, who signs the paper? It's your credibility at large.
And some of these deals were, I'm thinking after the US had come out of the COVID lockdown, you were buying aircraft in China, which was very hard to visit. You were sending technical guys in to do a quick boroscope of the engine, flick through the records.
Well, no, we were actually not sending people in. We actually were hiring local guys within China, but because there was just no entry or exit, so we were using those guys, and we walked away. If we looked at 10 deals, we sometimes, if we didn't get it our way, we would walk away. I walked away from a 550 deal, who I was buying with a friend of mine, and they wouldn't let us boroscope the engine. Said, good luck, see you around. And that aircraft was bought by a so-called dealer from the West Coast, and he flogged it. It's back on the market, and it's been for sale for now a good part of 18 months. Everything else is selling, but that aircraft isn't selling. So, if you can't mitigate your risk, there's no point doing it.
One of the big differences between the business jet market and the stock market is in the stock market, you've got thousands of traders, thousands of banks, thousands of very fungible assets, or infinite number of assets. How many people, How many people in this really drive the business jet market? How many brokers?
If you ask me, three. If you ask me to go beyond the three, maybe 5 or 6. I mean, one aircraft deal, I can tell you, 3 brokers bought a Global Express, a Global 6000. 3 brokers, 3 dealers. I mean, if you count them as dealers, okay. To me, they're not. They're dealers at the lower level. I mean, listen, there's maybe 50 dealers out there, but to be able to write a check, they buy for 1.2 million and they sell for 1.4 citations, or they buy for 1.9, sell for 2.2. That's just at the citation level. They're dealers at that level. Then there's the mid-market dealers. But then when the mid-market guy wants to come up, he's got a 5 million line of credit. So he gets another 3 people with 5 million, and they syndicate. The most syndication we've ever done is with another dealer. They put, we put. We're 50-50, everything down the middle. But who's got proper lines, who can do this? A handful. I would say 5 people at most who have a 75 to 150 million line of credit.
And what's the shortest you've held an aircraft for?
Shortest was I closed, and basically the buyer came, looked at our pre-purchase, and closed it on 7 days. But the bank didn't like that, so we had to pay back the bank 3 months of holding interest. But it was just luck, They came, they saw, they liked, and they picked it up.
So when you're
and in fact, we were gonna paint the aircraft. They even took our paint slot.
You also own half an aircraft, don't you?
I used to own the whole thing. Now I own half of it. Yes.
And what's your experience of the industry as an owner?
A lot of bullshit. Honestly, if you don't manage your management company, you're always behind the curveball. It's helpful to be in the industry because you can solve problems much faster than most management companies can. We needed an oil pump. They told me 6 weeks. There was a leaking oil pump. And I called the president of Honeywell, and I said, you need to help me out here. And I had an oil pump that afternoon. So from 6 weeks, okay, these are extreme, but there again, you have other issues, and when they can't do anything for you, they can't do anything for you. But this is just a little example of how. But in our case, we've had a good ride so far. It's very important to pay attention. I remember my pilot came to me and said, "Oh, we should move these switches from the lower part to the dash of the cockpit." I said, "It's worked for 8 years, and I'm sure it will work for another 8. I saved myself $75,000 for that." So there's stuff like that they can tell a novice owner, and they'll go, "Ooh, he's right. He's." But pilots like gadgets. They like toys, and and they're going to tell you what they want, and you're going to think it's important. So that's, and I also have certain knowledge of flying, so I can, I know if you're taking off somewhere and your possibility of not landing at your destination, you don't need to make that decision prior to departure. You can make it during the flight. You check your fuel and you check your the weather and so on, and you make a decision later on. So there's stuff like that I will never tell my pilot what to do, but he can't pull the wool over my eyes and tell me, oh, we don't have enough range. Like, how do you know? Let's take off. Let's go. Let's find out. So,
how long's your pilot worked for you for?
The 16 years.
Okay.
Yeah, he was there. He was on the Lear 60, and then he came on the Falcon.
Do you consider yourself an insider in business aviation?
I mean, what's an insider? Do I know who to call? Yes.
How long do you think it took you to become a member of the inner circle?
We have this business is an inner circle at every level. So there's the entry level inner circle. There is the second tier inner circle. I am part of the inner circle of my generation. But I've been fortunate because of certain people. I have gotten to know many leaders of the industry. And I've always had a relationship, at that level, which is good and bad.
Was there ever a time when you did a transaction and you thought, I've done it, this is a good one?
Yes. The first it was 2001, and I bought somebody a BBJ-1, and they agreed to pay a 2.5% brokerage fee, and it was nice. Then I had three occasions that I had bought an airplane, and I was going through the pre-purchase inspection. While that was going on, the market kept on bumping 10% a month. And it was like, wow. It was a nice pleasure. It was a pleasure when you close that deal, you don't even want to take a sales call for a few days.
What's the biggest margin you've ever made on an inventory deal?
Wouldn't you like to know that? I'm not going to tell you. You know why? Because half the people who will listen to you will think that that's the norm, and it wasn't. It was, forget about that. That's, unfortunately, your audience will hold me hostage for that.
What advice would you give to someone who wanted to become a broker?
Don't. Really, there's much today. It's a cat eat cat, dog eat dog. Dishonesty, no loyalty. Most people are one-hit wonders. And it's today, I see it as an industry that there's no winners. There are no winners on our side of the business, on the broker-dealer side. The winners are the end users. Too much information. When I started, if you wanted Amstat, it was a DOS program, and you had to go on this thing. They would feed it every night, and you would know what's for sale, what's not for sale. Today, you go on the internet, and So that the internet has caused a tremendous amount of disruption, and people think they're cute. I mean, I remember I bought a Global Express, and just by pure coincidence, and I resold it to a guy in New York. I'm in another meeting, and the guy who wants to buy another plane from me, somebody else, he calls his friend. He says, "Oh, you should do what I did. I bought it. I went on Controller. I found it, and I bought it." Guess what? He did, but he got tattooed. He overpaid. But if he was represented, he wouldn't have overpaid. So that's the part that I get joy out of when I find out people, brag about something. And I looked at his friend. I said, "Yeah, he did buy it, but he paid over $1 million more than he should have, because he thought he knew, because he was saving $250,000 getting a broker."
What advice would you give to an owner apart from choosing a broker?
Look, owners buy an airplane every maybe 5 years. And just because they own an aircraft for 30 years or 20 years doesn't give them the qualification of knowing the market. It doesn't give them the qualification of knowing what to look for. Every deal we do, we learn something from that deal. Whether it's the landing gear, whether it's the engine, whether it's the cockpit, whatever, we learn. So when you do 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 deals a year, you have 70 times more experience than a guy who does it once every 5 years. Don't be penny wise, dollar foolish, like the Falcon 900 guy was. He didn't want to pay a broker. He thought he knew everything and he can do it himself. He ended up in litigation and got zero because the judge said, "You did your due diligence. What's it got to do with the previous owner? The previous owner didn't stop you from doing your due diligence, but you didn't know what due diligence to do." And that's where, and then the other thing is, a lot of owners like to get their pilots involved. And it's good to get a pilot involved, but a pilot is only as good as the technical side of it, the cockpit, the type of aircraft, and so on, by all means. But when they get the pilot to become the broker as well, in my experience, that has not always been, in 33 years, that's always been a recipe for disaster.
Okay, you've got 3 decades of experience. You've been through COVID, you've been sold aircraft through the global financial crisis, the dot-com, 9/11. This is a week after the Liberation Day tariffs. What's your view on what's going to happen to the market now?
I think the American market is going to rock. I mean, I don't see any stopping here. The G550 market looks like it's active. 650 market is active. Certain markets are inactive, and I think it's called value for money. I think there is a pause right now until people digest it. But at the end of the day, you either know you can afford an airplane or you don't. It's not rocket science. So when people wait, I'm waiting for the elections. Sorry, I don't understand. What's the relevance of the election? Can you afford it or can't you afford it? What does the election have to do with it? So it's a bit, what the hell do the tariffs have to do with a developer in New York? He's going to make, 20 million less? But you either can afford it or you cannot afford it. And most people don't put their balance sheet to fly an airplane. So to me, it's a pause. We haven't seen activity drop. We have a client in the Midwest who's doing a fleet renewal, 2 out, 2 in. We have an aircraft going to Brazil. We have an aircraft coming to the US. We have a guy from Florida to guy in Boston. So, you know what? I mean, is it rocking? No. Are we doing 20 aircraft in a quarter? No. But is the market trading? Yes. I don't see. For me, it's very academic. It's not rocket science. You look at your balance sheet. You look at how much money you have in the bank. You can either afford it or you cannot. Subject closed.
Are you still happy to inventory deals?
At the right, yes, I'm looking right now. We're evaluating several aircraft. But the price has to be right. We have to. We're not going to, just because you want 40.5 million, I'm not going to pay you 40.5 million. And I'm happy to sit back and wait till I get the purchasing price that suits our model. I can't be emotional and be in a position to take unnecessary risk for. You can do it, but you have the risk of losing, which on a particular aircraft we did lose 1.2 million. I mean, we didn't handle the deal correctly, but anyway, we lost. So the bottom line is we prefer not to.
Before we started recording, you were saying you didn't necessarily disagree with tariffs. And it's interesting because you are such a global citizen. You're from Iran, you live in Britain, you've got property in Switzerland, in the US, you've got a business in Bermuda and Hong Kong.
Look, in Trump's case, did he manage it correctly? I can't tell you yes or no. I would lean towards no. Did he? What did he say he's going to do it? All along. And in fact, he's been saying the same rhetoric for 40 years. Right? Go and look at his interview in 1985, in 1988, in 1995. The 3 interviews I'm familiar with. So he's always been, and he's right, by the way. In case of the Chinese, they signed up to the WTO, but they don't abide by it. They steal your intellectual property. They manufacture exactly what you have, and then they sell it back to you. The legal system is not there. You can't sue them and go to court and say, hey, he stole my... So, as somebody said this morning on one of the programs, he said, 100, I would have put 400 on them. 400%. The reality here is the damage is far greater for China than it is for the United States. China has 10 million jobs associated with the tariffs. The United States has 170,000 jobs. Do you understand that the Japan, great people, love Japan. I go there twice a year, done business there, but they make it difficult. It's not illegal to go and try, but just try to do business with the Japanese. They make it so difficult, you just throw in the towel and leave. But at the same time, they come, they sell their CD players, their televisions, their electronics, their cars in America, in Europe, everywhere. So you want reciprocity, that's where the reciprocity comes. Now, these are the two highlighted ones. But the other side of it is the United States protects South Korea, protects Japan, protects Europe, protects all these, the Middle East. It's always they're the one protecting. And to have these people not only take the protection, but then come and tariff the American goods. And one thing I do know factually, if you want to sell a European car into the US, you pay 2.5% tariff. You want to sell a US car in Europe, 10%. So I think he's right about being fair. And I think all these people who are trying to white knuckle him are going to lose at the end, because the power of the American market is the biggest in the world. Now, is it going to be painful? Probably. Is it going to affect the value of the stock market? I think it is going to affect it, but I think today it's an exaggerated effect. It's an oversold knee-jerk reaction, because there are certain industries that are not relevant to, if you are a telehealth business, what's your relevance to tariffs? You're producing telehealth in the United States. And even if you were producing it for another country, there's no tariff, because it's all centralized audio, visual, like you and I are talking today. So the markets have their own mind. Has it jittered the uncertainty? Absolutely it has. But at the end of the day, there are some valid points and reasoning, but I don't know why everybody is so surprised. He campaigned on it.
Yeah,
he's talked about it since 1985, that the United States is being ripped off.
And only one of the two of us was at the inauguration, so you know a lot more about Trump than I do.
I don't know anything.
Do you think you and he have a similar negotiating style?
No, I mean he's a bit tougher than I am. We have the same approach of open book.
You at the start, I asked you.
Say it the way it is.
But when you say it the way it is, you have a reputation for sometimes shouting. Is that fair?
You have reputation is you start with people patiently, but when you look at them and they're taking the mickey out of you, that's when I lose it. When they start insulting my intelligence, I tell them to go away and get back and regroup and come back. Yes. Don't insult my intelligence.
And do you ever fake that anger?
No. There's no reason to fake it, because when you break, you need to let steam out. And then you pick it up. But yes, don't bullshit me. Don't lie to me. Don't play games with me. Be honest. Be straightforward. It's not brain surgery. If we were in the brain surgery business, you could mishmash it. But we're not. We're in a very straightforward. You want to buy, I want to sell. Contract should read this. Don't get cute.
And if someone ends up, in a disagreement with you, and you end up shouting at them, does it stop you dealing with them in the future?
I give people the benefit of the doubt, but I would prefer if I walk away from, if you're incompetent, no, I wouldn't take your call again. I would just consider you to be, you have to really prove yourself to me for me to acknowledge you. But, I'm clearly in business, and there are people who accept the way I am and roll with it. And if you're that fragile and that thin-skinned, move on.
Will you ever retire?
Look, eventually everybody's going to retire.
Thanks, Ali. That's brilliant.
No, but the retirement is it gets to a point that you don't want to deal with the nonsense of any business. My father retired at age 85. He used to go to the office half day. So, would I want to be talking to some idiot who's trying to tell me how to buy an airplane? Hell no. But would I talk to somebody who really wants my opinion genuinely? Yes. But, at the end of the day, I love what I do. And that's what matters. I love what I do. I enjoy it. But I'm old enough to just walk away and just say, I don't want to deal with this guy. Respect me, I respect you. You don't respect me, I don't need to respect you. It's goodbye. That's what it boils down to. At the final, it's mutual respect makes business happen. But when people are cute and clever, I'm cuter and cleverer.
Thanks, Ali. That was brilliant.